All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio, hour number 2. I am Charlie McGrath. It's the 12th day of December, Wednesday, and Dave Thomas Jr. Is the name of the singer of that song. Run Forever is the name of the song. You can find it on YouTube, and if you want to download it, you can. There's a link there where you can go to iTunes and download it. Some people have said they've liked it, and you guys know I've liked it because I've talked about it numerous times, but I don't think I've given the name. Dave Thomas Jr. Run Forever is the name of the song, and he's not very well known. I mean, this video or this song is 28,000 hits on YouTube, and he's I don't know if he's just starting out or what, but I really like his other music he has too. So if you like that song, you can go check out his YouTube channel, and that'll take you to his website. But a lot of his music is really good. Never Been a Better Time to Be Alive is what that song clip ends at when we get rolling into hour number 2. And, one way or another, I believe that's accurate. There's never been at least a more interesting time to be alive. And to talk about that, we're going to bring back on Fabian4Liberty, radio host and YouTube personality. Fabian4Liberty, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you on as well. How are things with you? How is your program doing? And when can we hear your program?
The program's on every Monday and Friday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. That's Eastern Time. And, of course, for just regular video updates, they can go to Fabian4Liberty.com, and that's where I post all the basically all my videos, commentary, everything else. So, but everything is going well. What's interesting is what you just said, that it is a very interesting time to be alive, Charlie. And, sometimes I even think that perhaps we've even been born for this moment for some reason, right? So, regardless of what you think, it's definitely interesting and historical times going on.
Yeah, and I think you and I have had this conversation off air before. As far as, people were, maybe not, maybe I'm making this up, but I know I've had this conversation with somebody, and you could refresh my memory, that people are born in different times for different reasons, and it is. There's no doubt about it. There is no other time in history where we have the same scenario that we do now, and the people that tell you we just, that we're rinsing and repeating, maybe in some aspects, yes. But listen, we are in a time on this planet unlike anything I believe humanity has ever seen before, especially with advancements in technology, especially with it seems we've had thousands of years of trial and error of global tyrannical rule, and the powers that be have figured out how to make this whole thing work on a global scale, easing us into it, frog into the pot type of deal. But certainly, I think, Fabian, we're living in times unlike anybody could imagine, even just 40 or 50 years ago. So it is some very interesting times, without a doubt.
Yeah, in fact, tomorrow I'm going to be cutting a video that deals with that whole entire paradigm shift, really. I mean, I was actually thinking, you just said 50 years ago, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I was thinking, okay, where was my life 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Where was it 5 years ago? And I just say to myself, my God, in just 5 years, how quickly things have changed on multiple different levels. Not even just for me personally, Charlie, but just for the world. I mean, you look at technology, food, money, government, the government spending, the wars. Everything is, we may have certain facets that we are repeating, like you mentioned, but never has there been all of these issues coming to a climax at the same time. And it's what I'm calling this 21st century paradigm shift that's underway. And Charlie, the people that
and Fabian, in that aspect, a lot of these people that are expecting this monumental spiritual shift with the end of the Mayan calendar, right, wrong, or otherwise, regardless, of how much time you spend looking into this kind of thing or not, or believe in it or not, right, wrong, indifferent. The truth is, this change, good, bad, or otherwise, is coming.
Yeah. There's just no question about it. Again, like you said, it doesn't matter if you want to believe in the Mayan thing. I mean, I don't even care if you believe in, people go worship a cat. You know what I mean? The bottom line is the changes are coming either way, and you can just see that in so many different ways. So I'm a firm believer that this is an age for the people that are learning, that are learners, and that are, understanding the changes that are about to affect their life. And for those that buy into the 20th century paradigm, that things will continue under that paradigm, that government can take care of your retirement, or that government can take care of you, or that the dollar is the world reserve currency forever, or any of those. I mean, I can give so many different examples. Those people are going to get hurt really bad. I mean, they're going to get hurt really bad, and it's the people that are understanding the changes that are coming, they're getting ready for it, and it goes beyond, right, food storage, water storage, getting gold and silver. It's beyond that. It's also understanding how our country is changing, how this tyranny is being rolled in, how they're trying to soft kill you with the water supply and the food supply. I mean, so this is kind of like this new age. I'm not getting all spiritual or anything. Not that that would be bad if I did, but I'm not. I'm just saying this is common sense. This is reality. This is what we're dealing with right now.
No doubt about it. No, I could not agree with you more. And I see, if I stand back and look, like you said, look at just the last several years, right? Or just like the last couple of years since we've been doing YouTube videos and radio programs and things like that. The shift, first of all, the velocity of decay of morality is unbelievable. Unbelievable what we will tolerate now, compared to just a couple years ago. And I'm not talking, just financial. I'm not talking just what we're doing militarily. I'm talking everything. Everything is decaying as far as the current system. And it doesn't matter if it's our pop culture system, our media system, our political system. Everything is just decaying at a more accelerated rate. And this shift will, and is going to occur. And it's going, Fabian, it's going to be painful. It's certainly going to be painful for the vast majority of people that think the game's never coming to an end. It's going to keep running down this road forever and ever and ever, because we're always going to have the United States of America being the policeman of the world. We're always going to have, the Federal Reserve controlling the economy. Everything's going to keep going down this path. It ain't. It's coming to an end. And like I said, it's going to be an awakening for many. And unfortunately, the awakening is going to be very painful for the vast majority.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. It will be painful for the mass majority. I think the listeners of this program, Charlie, and people that watch our YouTube videos and that understand these fundamental truths that are taking place, I think the silver lining comes with those individuals, right? Because those are the individuals that I think will be the leaders that'll be, saying, hey, in their community, with their family, saying, hey, look, we've known this is coming. Here's what we can do. There's a better way. And that way is trusting in yourself as an individual, not trusting in some, foreign UN body or in Obama or in the Republicans, or understanding that's the problem, right? So, unfortunately, some people will wake up. It'll be way too late. Others may hear this interview, may hear us talking right now. They might say, hey, that sounds right to me. Let me find out more, or let me look into that more. And so, when we talk about these changes, Charlie, I know we're going to talk about the Fed, but look, the Fed's buying 90% of T-bills, buying 90% of our debt, and now they're also becoming big players in the MBS mortgage-backed securities. And it's like nothing's even happening. That should be breaking news every single night on every single paper every morning, and people are like, yeah, no big deal. And so it shows you that they've only gotten away with that, Charlie, because of the morality decay you're talking about, people not concerned about any of that until, all of a sudden they're going to wake up. And I heard the perfect analogy today. They're going to walk into Walmart and they're going to think they're Neiman Marcus, because that's going to be one of the effects.
That's a great point. When we see maybe a hyperinflationary spiral out of control system, and the things you're buying that are produced in China or abroad are no longer attainable because of Federal Reserve action. And let's take this break. Great beginning here. Let's keep this going. We're going to be back with Fabian for Liberty, more Wide Awake News Radio. Just a few minutes, guys. Please hang tight. All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, your host, along with Fabian4Liberty, Fabian4Liberty on YouTube. You can also catch his program Mondays and Fridays, 8 p.m. East, on American Freedom Network, correct?
American Freedom Radio.
American Freedom Radio. All right. We're talking about the shift that's coming. There's no stopping it. There's no denying it. What's it going to look like? I guess is where the debate is. Some people think that if we look, I think back to, do you remember the Drake phenomenon where we had these white knights that were going to come out and affect all these arrests of the uber elite? Forget it, folks. These folks are holding on to power until the last dog is hung. They're holding on to it until it's yanked out of their hands, and they'll pull it. They'll try anything and do anything in order to hold on to this power and consolidate power. And that is, I believe, Fabian, why we saw the recent continuation of Fed policy to throw the people of this country more and more into debt. You recently put out a video. By recently, I mean within the last 3 hours. Fed action signals endgame. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's exactly what the Fed is signaling, okay? On Friday, Bloomberg was talking about, which is something I've been talking about, I think you've been talking about as well, which is the Fed's going to have to redraw the plans for how they're going to unwind the now $3 trillion in U.S. bonds and MBS mortgage-backed securities that they've bought. Well, by 2015, it will likely be over $5 trillion. And I always like to give a little disclaimer, Charlie, because we know all these government numbers are rigged. It could be right. $10 trillion. It could be 50, who knows, right? So the thing is that once the Fed shows up and they say, look, we're going to keep up with this aggressive, never-before-seen, uncharted financial territory, financial waters for the U.S., with basically debasing the currency like they're doing, there's never going to be, in my opinion, a sovereign or a private party that's going to step into that vacuum once the Fed starts to pull back. So basically the story is supposed to be the economy's going to get better, then we're going to start to sell off these assets into the public sector and to maybe some sovereigns that might buy it. Who in their right mind believes any of that? I mean, maybe if you're smoking the opium that the mainstream is selling, but I think people like you and I, Charlie, and our listeners that know the reality of the situation, China's out of the T-bills, Japan's maybe buying them because we offer financial military support, but that's all coming to an end as well. So I think their actions signal desperation. They know it's coming. It's why the government's preparing with all the buying of the ammunition and everything. It's kind of like, look around, see what's happened with the house.
Yeah, we lost you there. Well, we didn't lose you completely, but we broke up there a little bit on the end. But if you're, I think your statement was, they understand where we're at exactly. There's no guesswork involved here by Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve, or the true power elites that are dictating policy in D.C. They know that this game's coming to an end. Every time. You talked in the last segment about how the news of open-ended bond purchasing forever, not a boys, we're going to do this until we hit a $700 billion mark. No, we're going to do it forever. And this news, which should grab any person who gets up and sells their life, because that's what you do when you get up in the morning and you go to work for somebody. You sell your life's energy in order to exchange it for Federal Reserve notes. This news should infuriate you because it's going to make what you're doing even worth less. But this isn't making the news. This isn't this piece of information that should be covered and people should be outraged over isn't making the news. But more importantly, or as equally as importantly perhaps, is the fact that even with this news, the law of diminishing returns shows almost no move whatsoever. We're stuck at a multi-trillion dollar paid for Dow Jones 13,000 points. And even when they announce, we're going to keep buying U.S. debt into 2015, 2020, 20 forever, we don't even get a bump out of this. So the law of diminishing returns, the reality of the outrageous money that's been spent to save bankers is coming home to roost. Fabian, I think pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's all great points, Charlie. And, you look at a country like Japan, the guy who's running for prime minister right now isn't happy with QE8 that the Japanese government rolled out, I think, a few months ago. So what he's saying is we need to put the foot on the pedal, and we need to fight deflation with literally printing as many trillions of dollars of yen as we possibly can. How's that worked out for them? They've been in 2 back-to-back decades of these so-called lost decades. It's
Absolutely.
not going to be better for them. We have the world reserve currency.
Yeah, exactly right. And we'll break that down, as well as I want to talk about this other video you did. It's collapsing, so now what? We're going to be back with Fabian4Liberty. More Wide Awake News Radio, guys. Please hang tight. All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, your host. Fabian4Liberty is our guest. And we were joking around during the break that, we keep tongue-in-cheek talking about this December 21st Mayan end of the world thing, and watch, something's going to happen. We're sitting here joking around about it. But, Fabian, you brought up a good point during that break, and I'm just going to turn it over to you when it has to do with, what we're being forced to pay attention to and what we're being distracted away from.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? We have NASA, who, last I thought, they're supposed to be landing rovers on Mars and all this other stuff. Their main mission in the last couple of weeks has become trying to debunk the Mayan end-of-the-world doomsday scenario. And, when I was saying that to you, I also thought about the Department of Homeland Security running commercials about the zombie apocalypse. But yet none of these institutions are talking about a real threat, and that's Ben Bernanke and what the Federal Reserve is doing. I mean, we have 2,000-plus years of recorded history knowing that, hey, when you debase the currency, it doesn't end well. But they seem to be ignoring all of that, Charlie, and instead of focusing on what are, really are like these crazy kind of like, I don't want to say conspiracy too much, because conspiracy, my definition is just questioning government, and I think we should all do that, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's amazing what they want to draw attention to.
Well, and when they're drawing attention to one thing, it certainly means they're trying, that they are drawing attention away from something else. And it's what I opened the first hour with tonight, which is, the talk of the day in the business world anyway is, and the concern is taxation, fiscal cliff, and spending cuts. And sorry, folks, the notion that the deals that are being thought about cut right now in D.C. are going to benefit the people, going to benefit the economy, that should be the furthest thing from your mind, because it's the furthest thing from what's going to happen. All of the corruption, collusion, and lying has brought us to the point of having a fiscal cliff in the first place. The news of the day should be, as Fabian said, what the hell is happening in your name, not only with waging wars around the planet. We're not talking about that so much, but what is happening to this country vis-a-vis our banking system and this cabal of bankers who are not going to stop until they absolutely dominate and control everything. And it all lends, Fabian, it all lends and leads back to the shift that is coming, right? In one of your videos, you titled it the collapse. So it's collapsing. So now what? Now it's 9 minutes, so I didn't have a chance to watch this one yet before the program. But I want to get, this is kind of where I'm at. I think you and I might be on the same place on this. It's hard for me now. It's harder for me now to do a video or a topic of trying to convince people that this is all going to come down, because in my mind, it's already happened. The collapse is it's inevitable. It's we've already begun it. It's going to get a lot worse. There is no question in my mind whatsoever, not even one shadow of a doubt, that it's going to that there is no turning the corner coming. There's not going to be a global Iceland moment where we take a bunch of bankers, arrest them, and put them in prison for the rest of their lives and expunge and get rid of a bunch of debt. That ain't happening. So this pain and suffering is a foregone conclusion in my mind. So it's harder for me to get up here and talk about trying to convince people, wake them up to where we're at, even though that's an important thing that we both do. But I am of the mindset that it is collapsing. And I want your take on it is collapsing, and so now what? Which is the title of one of your recent videos.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're right. It is collapsing. If it wasn't for all this collusion, manipulation, it'd be game over. I mean, many people that have been talking about this subject matter, Charlie, much longer than you and I have been saying, look, there's just no way this is sustainable. They're rigging the system. They're doing everything they can to keep it and to extend and pretend.
Right.
Look, so knowing what we know, if you finally come to that conclusion and you come to it for yourself, that's the most powerful way, right? You've gone down the rabbit hole. You realize much of what you've been told your whole lifetime is pretty much a fraud, other than basic principles and values that, the globalists, they can't take those away because they stand for something. But outside of those, most things like the dollar, America's this great apple pie loving country. Americans may be like that, Charlie, but our government certainly is not like that, right? They murder, they kill, they're killing innocent people with these drone attacks. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, again, knowing all of that, I mean, I think the obvious is, right? So, it's like we've made the obvious, we already talked about the obvious, preparing, having plans, having food storage, water storage. So then what? So then what are you doing? And, what I'm getting into, and I'm out there trying to be the best I can in my life. I'm out there trying to be an example to my children, to my family. I'm out there trying to be of service to other people in my community, turn a profit, do all that stuff, right? Because what I'm saying is, like, look, I think at this point, knowing what we know, the way forward is by setting an example, being of service, providing a service of some kind, and completely opting out of their whole Ponzi scheme, corrupt system. And I said this at so many shows. Don't bank at their banks. Don't shop at their stores. Don't eat their big foods. Don't get on their big pharma medication. Try to just get out of that system. And you set the example as an individual in your community. I mean, Charlie, tens of millions of people start doing that, which I think definitely millions are starting to do that, because I think people are starting to get it, especially people that, we talk to and that our videos relate to. I think that's the only chance we have to turn the tide if we can. Not to mean that we're going to stop the collapse or that, the economy's not going to stop from going off the cliff. It's going to, in my opinion. The question is, what can we do when that happens? Can we turn this around and have some kind of refounding of this country? I tend to be an optimist in spite of what we talk about, and I hope that we can.
I think you might be. I think you and I might be on the same page as that we need to have people on the post-collapse scenario that have been talking about where we're what's coming, and now it's hit, and look what brought us here. I think that's very, very important. Optimism. I'm trying to put this in as truthful of thought as possible. I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic for a lot of reasons, and mainly it's because I think that as I said earlier, the world has been brought to a place through tyranny that over thousands of years, I believe that one tyrannical regime upon another has used the one prior as a learning example of how we can improve tyrannical takeover. And it seems that they've almost mastered this thing to the point where it's going to be a tyrannical takeover by request, right? We're gonna, we're talking a little bit about fiscal cliff and debt and Federal Reserve and central banks and all that kind of thing. Well, from my point of view, it's completely 100% engineered, and they've been able to thus far, have no opposition, virtually, I should say, no opposition whatsoever in implementing this sovereignty destroying agenda, which is stealing sovereignty through debt and stealing freedom from the people of the world, again, through debt. I see a scenario unfolding where we are going to hit a big, big mega crisis, and it's going to be by design. And at the end of it, we will have a lot of folks like myself and you and others in alternative media and others even in mainstream media who are going to be saying, look, we told you this was coming. This is why it is here. This is what brought us here, and this is what we need not do in the name of a solution. But Fabian, I just see so many people that are willing to just trade it all in, trade in a little bit of freedom for a little bit of safety. And, they get neither, as Benjamin Franklin said. But I see too many people that are willing to just lay down and, as long as they get their crack at, cold beer and the football game, they'll do anything that they're told in order to maintain that status quo. Hang tight. I rambled on a little bit there too long. We're going to be back with Fabian for Liberty and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio, the 12th day of December, Wednesday, final segment for this 2-hour broadcast. Fabian for Liberty is our guest, and we're continuing the conversation during the break on Skype. Maybe you guys were listening and heard in on this, talking about the difference, slight difference of opinion between optimism and pessimism. But one thing we agree on, Fabian, for sure, is over the last several years, decades for that matter, there has been a movement within the our government, and in totality, I mean that our government that is right, left, Democrat, Republican, to expand this government to the point where it is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, and that's where we're at, right? And it doesn't matter if it's corporate welfare or if it's social safety nets. We're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. And I believe wholeheartedly that this principle was implemented and this agenda was prosecuted for that reason, to make the populace in a very controllable entity. And that's where we are. So we have a situation now where if it isn't on both sides, right? This is crystal clear to me anyway, that both sides are completely, totally reliant on government. And if it isn't for government, at least in our minds, if it isn't for government, we're screwed. And I believe, again, Fabian, by design. So we're going to have a shutdown in government, a shutdown in because of a fiscal cliff or a non-raising of a debt ceiling, and it's going to cripple the red team because government handouts to corporations and zero interest loans by the Federal Reserve are going to have to come to an end. That's going to cripple the red team, or we're going to have austerity kicked in, and that's going to cripple the blue team because there goes all the social safety nets. We've seen this monster rise around us that looked friendly from the start and looked like it cared and looked like it was working on behalf of the people, but behind the scenes for decades, it's turned into this beast that at will now can enforce its agenda through pain because it's let itself grow into, we've let it grow into this beast that is all controlling, all powerful, and in some respects, has become the new religion of this country.
That's a very good point, Charlie. I think that earlier on, and we've covered this in the break too, that when we talk about the actions of the Fed signaling what the end game are, signaling they're desperate, and the action they're taking, to me, shows complete desperation. So to me, it shows that they know what's going to happen, because, one of the people over there at the Fed has had to have read a history book or opened up a history book. So they know that. So then you look over at the rapid increase of entitlements when it comes to food stamp usage, and just all the other vast network of just nanny state entitlement on both the right and the left. So what I think is that when the whole system shuts down, all the people that are dependent on government, that are living, and by the way, that's part of the 20th century paradigm, right? The government can take care of you. They can, your retirement will be in their hands. Your health care is in their hands. That's all part of the old big paradigm that's going to totally collapse, totally be shattered. And so, but what's going to happen to those people? They're going to look to the same liars, criminals, and thieves for the answer. I hope they don't, but many of them will. But hopefully some of those look to what we're saying for the answer. They're like, hey, maybe the guys that were talking about constitutional government, that government can't take care of you, that government's been the most murderous in the 20th century, maybe they're the ones that were right. So, I think that it's pretty clear, the battle lines have been drawn, really, and I think we're starting to see where kind of how this may be shaken out.
Yeah, I agree. And the battle lines being drawn is a really good reference or analogy, because that's what it's going to turn into. It's going to be battle lines between people that really have no effect on their own future. They pretend that they do, but they don't. And one of these, you mentioned to me during the break. I didn't have a chance to respond to it yet. But I, here we are, 2010. We started to really talk about austerity, and it was kind of highlighted by Wisconsin. Well, and here we are in 2012 again. I think we're about to enter into a period of division unlike we've ever seen, and we go to Michigan now with this new right to work law that's about to be signed into place there. Give me your take on that, because I kind of have the feeling that you were in support of this. And to give you my opinion on it, I don't think anybody should be forced to participate in a union. But I also know that the special corporate power, the special interest power elite they will use the opportunity of not having a strong union in order to beat down wages and beat down the work pool to a point that increases their bottom line. Which again, I believe this is what it's all about. But anything you can do to fracture any kind of solidarity amongst the working class, I think, goes a long way in fracturing again the middle class of this country, which is ever decreasing. But the fact that it's right to work state, to me, is less important than the unbelievable amount of vile disgust and hatred between two sides on this argument. Your take?
Yeah, I think that last point is exactly right. I mean, there is a lot of anger and division when it comes to this issue. My take is that, look, I'm not necessarily against unions. I think if workers want to get together because they're working in a coal mine, and one of them can, it's really dangerous conditions, I think they should have the right to get together and say, hey, we have to have some kind of safety around here. I mean, that's totally, I have no problem with that. Where I have a problem with is the radical left wing that is basically taking over these unions, forcing other people to participate, or if not, they're literally bullied and coerced into it. So that's something that I'm totally against. People should just have the right to, if I want to be part of that group, fantastic. I'm going to go join them because I think that they have a benefit to me. But if they don't, I'm not going to join them, and they shouldn't be bullied into doing it. The flip side of that, though, is that the middle class and the workers are under attack completely by globalization, by the multinationals that get paid to ship jobs overseas. It's just part of how broken the system is. I mean, since 2001, you've had 60,000 manufacturing facilities shipped over to China, Charlie. I mean, it decimated manufacturing in America because they sold us an empty bag of goods saying, hey, we could be a service-related economy. Everybody can work at Walmart and Starbucks, and it'll be great. Well, it isn't great. And we're seeing that total fraud right before our eyes. So, it's through these types of issues, I think, and through these realizations that hopefully people, again, wake up to, you know what, they lied to me, they've been lying to me. Perhaps the government, and they can't take care of me, I better start to unleash the power of the individual, which is me, myself, and chart my own course. That's what I would like to see happen.
I would like to see, too. Well, what during the break, you and I were talking about this, what I would like to see happen is what is inevitably going to happen, which is a collapse of this system. It's not even a matter of if I think it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. It has to happen.
No doubt.
Yeah, and so my hope is that on the backside of this, that we realize these kind of arguments are fruitless. These kind of arguments, that end up being more just a social issue arguments, are completely fruitless for us to have this debate over when we're not looking at the true issues that have led to how this argument can even take place. Our monetary policy, the policy of how Washington, D.C., these folks go there and end up being dictators almost. They get to stay there so long, and the blatant corruption between special interest and our so-called representative governments. If we're not talking about that, then anything else is irrelevant. Everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, it's crazy because the same people that are out there and again, it's not like I'm picking on unions. I think I pretty much just clarified my position on it. But the people that are out there fighting, or they think they're fighting for their union, I mean, man, your union bosses are the ones who sold you these pension systems that are going bankrupt. Just look at Europe. They can't make the payments. I mean, in California, I think it's $500 billion of the pension system. It is totally bankrupt. Those payments will never be made. And same with Illinois, same with New York, same with New Jersey. And I think people need to realize it's not just the pension systems, it's the safety net of Social Security. That wasn't even really an entitlement. I mean, people paid into that. But they lied to you. And I think that's where people need to realize it. Unfortunately, most don't realize it. They're going to realize it the hard way, let's say, right? When their normalcy bias is totally shattered.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. These things like Social Security, these safety nets that are not going to be there. They're not, because we can't pay for them. We just can't. There's no way to do it. And again, Social Security, I'm with you. It's not a entitlement. I don't like when people call it that, because you know what? If they're taking this money from me, this is my money. I want it back. But what's ironic is we have this we have this discussion about people having arguments about this topic, and realize that this is how sinister our system is, because we're allowed to have these debates and arguments about wages, about jobs, about manufacturing leaving this country, about what we could do to trim our budget and trim our spending, as long as it happens on the heels of the people who brought us here being made completely whole, happy, and healthy. We talk about billions and potentially trillions of dollars of entitlements. Well, we've spent multiples more of that in the last 5 years just saving a bunch of companies who shouldn't even be in existence right now. So this is, hopefully, Fabian, this is the 21st century shift that you and I have been talking about tonight. We get away from this corrupt system that must be destroyed and must be ended, and turn towards a more freedom-based world, a freedom-based nation, a freedom-based economy.
Yeah, I mean, it also shows how illegitimate they are once this whole thing comes crashing down. It'll prove everything we've talked about for years, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
They were scamsters.
Fabian4Liberty. You can catch his program on American Freedom Radio, Mondays and Fridays, 8 p.m. East. You can also catch him on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to him, please do so. Fabian4Liberty on YouTube. Fabian, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your thoughts and your opinions with me.
Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, man. You have a good night. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging out with me for 2 hours. I appreciate the guests coming on and the participation in the chat room. Please enjoy Jeff Rintz, because he is coming up next. Tomorrow night, we have Ed Cochran lined up for hour number 2. We have Eric Lovely lined up for hour number 1. Hopefully you can make it. Again, please enjoy Jeff. He is coming up next. Have a good night. Peace.